Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're going to be making this tea caddy biscuit barrel style box. This is 4 inches square. So we've got these 4 corner struts on the sides, and then we have a lid which sits inside like so. It's a really simple box to put together, and it would be really easy to resize if you so needed. So without further ado, let's put the project together. We'll start with the sides of the box, and for that you'll need 2 pieces, and that can be the width of A4, 8¼ or the width of US, 8½, and that will be times 4½ inches. Along the long side, score at 4 and 8. So on the A4 piece, you'll only have 1/4 inch glue tab, whereas on the US letter, you'll have 1/2 inch glue tab. Rotate to the short side and score at 4 inches. And you'll do that twice. Fold and burnish along the score lines. Take your scissors, and on each piece, we're going to cut up the central score line to separate these 2 1/2 inch glue tabs. And then we're going to remove this bottom right hand rectangle. So we're now left with 3 glue tabs, 2 along the base and 1 on the side, and we're just going to take a wedge from the ends of each of the glue tabs. So your piece will look like so, and then we're going to repeat that with the second side. So that's our 2 side pieces, and we want to make sure that before we put the corner struts on, we've decorated our panels. So you can do that at this stage before we join the 2 sides together and form the cube, or you might want to wait until we've formed the box base and put the panels on before you put the struts in place. So I'm going to add my pattern paper on now, and these are 3 3/4 times 3 3/4, and I'm going to adhere 1 onto each panel like so. So I'm now going to add glue to this glue tab and join these 2 pieces together. Flip the piece over to the reverse. Then I'm going to fold in this end panel, add glue to this glue tab and flip over the end and join up. So we've now got 4 sides to our box. The next thing we want to do is add on the base. For the base, I have a square which is 4 inches by 4 inches, and I'm going to add glue to the base glue tabs here and then sit this on the bottom. This is going to sit on like so, and I'm going to square off the box at the same time. Once I'm happy that that's in position, I can flick the box up and just go in from the top and burnish down the glue tabs. So I'm quite happy with that. The cardstock I'm using is around a 220, a 230. So I've cut myself another square, which is a 1/16 under 4 inches square. I'm going to add glue and put this into the bottom, which is going to conceal the glue tabs, but also add some additional strength to the base to secure my gift. And I'm using my construction glue, so that's going to make everything nice and sturdy. So that's in the bottom, so that's just tidied that up, and again just go in and burnish that down and spread the glue. So that's our box, and the next thing we're going to do is add the corner struts and supports in. We're now going to create the corner struts. Now you can change the width and the height of each of your pieces. So I've got 4 pieces which are 1½ times 4 3/4. So that's going to give me a 3/4 inch leg at the bottom of the box and a 3/4 inch wrap either side of the corner. So if you want to create a longer leg, make this strip longer, and if you want to create a wider corner strut, you can obviously make this piece wider. So I've got 4 pieces which are 1½ times 4 3/4. All 4 pieces I've scored at 3/4 inch on the short side. So we're now going to add these onto our piece. So we're going to line the top edge of the corner strut up with the top edge of the box, and we're going to stick these into place all the way around like so, and that's going to give us this 3/4 of an inch leg at the bottom, which obviously matches up with the width of the strap. Just bear in mind, if you do go narrower, the weight of the cardstock you're using. So if you're using a thinner cardstock, you might want to add 2 strips of card together first, so you create a thicker strut and consequently leg, which is going to hold the box up effectively. So I'm just going to, on each one, just to make life a bit easier for myself, make a pencil mark 3/4 of an inch from the end, so that I know how far down I can add my glue. So I'm going to use my construction glue for this, and then just secure that. Make sure the top of the corner strut is aligned with the top corner of the box, and that is going to sit on like so. I can fold the box onto its side, just burnish everything down inside, and then tip it over this way, and then I can burnish down that side. So that's my first strut in place, and I'm going to continue on the other 3 corners. So once you've got your struts in, just sit the piece up, adjust any of the height of the legs if you need to, but those corner struts are sitting on there quite nicely, and the box is sitting quite level, so that's the profile for the side. So the next thing we want to do is work on the lid. For the main portion of the lid itself, I have a square which is 5 inches by 5 inches. So this is going to give me a 1/2 inch overhang around all the sides. So if you want to change the overall look of the lid, then you can either make this piece obviously smaller but no less than 4 by 4, or if you wanted a wider rim, you could make it larger. So to help with the placement of the rim, I'm going to just put my piece in the scoreboard, and I'm just going to line my ruler up just over the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm just going to make a very faint pencil line from just over 1/2 inch from the top down to just over 1/2 inch from the bottom. This is just to give me a guide when I come to put my rim into place, and if I put the pencil marks just inside the 1/2 inch mark, then they shouldn't be seen. So I've now got a border which is just over 1/2 inch from the edge of the cardstock all the way round. So we're now going to make the rim of the lid, and we obviously want to make sure that the rim can fit down inside the box. You'll need 2 pieces of cardstock, and this will be the width of A4 or the width of US letter times 1 inch. And along the 1 inch side, score at 1/2 inch from top to bottom. Now we want to make the rim slightly shorter than the 4 inches for the box. So I'm going to make pencil mark at the downward track to the left of the 4 inch line. So it's 1/16 under 4 inches, and then I'm going to move that pencil line along to the 4 inch track and score. So the distance between the end of my cardstock here and my score line is 1/16 under 4 inches. Leave your piece where it is, so your score line's lined up with the 4 inch track, and make a pencil mark on the downward track to the left of 8 inches. Move that along to the 8 inch track and score. So if we just bring in our ruler, if I just fold over where the score lines are, the length of our section is 1/16 under 4 inches, and the length of this section is 1/16 under 4 inches. So if we bring in our box, our rim, you can see, fits nicely down on the inside of the box. So you want to do that on 2 pieces. You fold and burnish along all of your score lines. Bring in your scissors. We're going to cut up the vertical score line to the horizontal, like so. Remove the square at the end. So we're now left with 3 glue tabs. We're going to take a wedge from the ends of each of those. So you want to do that on both pieces. Now we're going to join our pieces together. So that is the rim of the lid. So if I just fold these glue tabs over and bring it in the box again, you can see that that fits nicely in the box. So now if you bring in your lid piece, we're going to add glue to the glue tabs, and that is going to sit in like so, and we can use the lines that we made as our guide to make sure that the rim sits as near to the 1/2 inch inside the lid as possible. If you can, for this part, I would use wet glue, just because that will allow you the wiggle room just to make sure that you can get this piece situated and squared off. So I'm going to sit that in like so, use my pencil lines on each side, work my way around. And then before it adheres completely, just bring the box in and just make sure, whilst you've still got the wiggle room, that your lid is fitting into the top of the box, which that is. So you can see that fits in there quite nicely, and if I flip it over, we've got a relatively even border on all the sides. The final part is the decoration of the lid. So I have created this look on the top. So these all go down in 1/2 inch increments. So the lid is 5 by 5. The next pattern paper is 4.5 by 4.5. Then I've got another black piece, which is 4 by 4. Pattern paper 3.5 by 3.5. Another piece of black, which is 3 by 3. Patterned paper 2.5 by 2.5, and then I have a final piece of black which is 2 by 2. So I'm just going to adhere that onto the top to complete the lid. To finish the lid, I then had a polystyrene ball which I've just flattened off, and I've coloured that with a black alcohol marker, and that's just created this element up the top for which to lift the lid. Overall, I'm really pleased with how this box has come out, and it's the sort of style that wouldn't be too difficult to make as large as you needed, because obviously you could make each of the 4 sides out of 4 separate pieces of cardstock and then just follow the same construction process but with different sized elements. And I think overall the box has got a really nice profile to it. So there we have project for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.